Page 45, the Marine's Hymn. On page 44, they give you some more exercises where you get to put in the names of the notes. It's really important you know the names of the notes, so go through those. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. Otherwise, I don't cover them in the videos. On page 45, we're covering the primary chords for the key of G major. They show them there, the 1, the 4, and the 5/7 chord. The numbers are the same in any key. You know, in C major, remember C major, we had the 1 chord and the 4 chord and the 5/7 chord. Well, now in G major, we get the same thing, 1, 4, and 5/7. When they cover them in the left hand, you need them in both. They'll tell you about the right hand. I'm going to tell you now. Remember how you figure out the chords? The 1 chord, every note in a scale is numbered. We call them steps. Step number 1, step. Well, the 1 chord is built on step 1. So in G major, step 1 is here, so you just build a chord on that. It's a G chord. It's a 1 chord in G major. See, if I were in C major, that would be a 5 chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in C major. But it's a 1 chord in G major. Isn't this fun? And then the 4 chord, well, 1, 2, 3, 4. Does this look familiar? It's a C chord. It's a 4 chord in G major. Happens to be a 1 chord in C major. Just take it as it comes. Don't confuse yourself here. And then the 5/7 chord, well, first figure out what the 5 chord is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Remember F sharp. G major has an F sharp. And then we add the 7th to it, which is 1 more note. So there's 4 notes. We don't use all 4 notes, so we can leave out either of the 2 middle ones. We usually leave out the A. And that's the 5/7 chord in G major. They work the same way in any key. You can figure out any of them in any key doing this. So we don't want to keep moving around. I want to go here 1 and then 4 and then 5/7, whatever it is. So we use the inversions or the rearranging. So on the 4 chord, I simply put the G on the bottom. And that way the 1 chord is here and then just the 2 notes here that goes up to the 4 chord. It's the same way as the C chord goes from 1 to 4. Well, see a pattern? Okay, do it in both hands. That's the 4 chord. And then the 5/7 chord, we were here. Actually, let's go down here. I'm not using the A. Now what I'm going to do is I have the F sharp on the bottom, so I'm going to put the D on top here. And that's the 5/7 chord. I just rearranged it and I left out a note. Well, 1 to 5/7 is here. Similar to C major, when I went to here, say here, the little finger went down a half step and I'm using the 2 top notes. Same thing here. Little finger goes down a half step, and I'm using the 2 top notes. So the primary chords, 1, 4, 5/7, 1. Or put a 1 in between them. 1, 4, 1, 5/7, 1. Primary chords in G major, you're going to see them a lot, and there they are. Now in Marine's Hymn, again, they put the Roman numerals for the chord. That tells you the number of the chord underneath. And they put the chord name above the staff. So the C and the D7 and the G and all that is up there. So if you have a guitar player or someone around who can improvise on that, they can play along with you. So let's talk Marine's Hymn. 4/4 time. It's 2 lines long. But you'll notice a repeat sign at the end of the first line. So the first line is repeated. So really it's 3 lines long, and then you have a DC al fine. I assume we've had that before, so that sends you back to play the first line again. So this is actually 4 lines long, even though it's printed on 2 lines. They can do that. They could have also printed it out in 4 full lines too. 1 sharp in the key signature, 1 in the key of G major. Make sure you can do the G major scale. I have a video on that scale. You do the beginner portion of that video. Do what I tell you in that video on the scale. Pick up beat. We're coming in on beat 4. 4 and 1. And then on these Ds, we got 5 of these Ds in a row. we want to change hand positions from here to here. And we're going to use these repeated notes to get there. I like this kind of fingering. Not everybody does. Some people avoid it, but I encourage it. So what you're going to do is on each D, you're just going to change fingers. And this is good exercise. You should do it in both hands. Here. And then go back. Eventually, you'll get to where you don't even need to look at the keyboard for it. You can feel this. But I encourage you to do that here. So it's 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3. And then crossover down here. Now I want to show you another kind of fingering you can think about. Because there are different ways of fingering things. There's different fingering styles. But in the measure in the middle there with a dotted rhythm in it, you're here. And I want you to cross over here. Well, there is a fingering style, the one I use, is I don't cross over my thumb if I don't have to. There's another way. There is. Here, instead of 1, 4, 1, I could go here, 5, 2, here, which means I could have played that D in front of the 8th note with second finger also. I could have just stayed there and gone here. That way I can just reach down with the thumb, 3, 5. Here, I didn't cross over the thumb. So again, the line here, 2, thumb, 5. I didn't cross over the thumb, and there's nothing wrong with it. Try it out and see what you think. If you like it, pencil it in and stick with it. Otherwise, use the fingering in the book and cross over. Connect these. Don't. Some people teach that. You just lift up and come down. There's times we do that, but I'm encouraging you, you need the practice of doing this, connecting this, because a lot of times you need to connect it. Second line, well, you just reach up an octave from the end of the first line up here. So, and you're just staying here all the way for the second line. And then at the end of the second line, you can reach down and thumb again, going, you got to go back to the beginning. Right hand. Now left hand just has the chords, which we've already covered the chords. So hopefully, and again, when you see these chords, you think of it as a unit, just as one thing. You're not thinking, I got to play all these notes. One unit, and you just lower the hand down for the unit. Then we put the hands together, and again, you can hesitate all you need to. We just want to get the notes to sound at the same. So we're here, and then here, and then here. And then the 8th notes are by themselves, lift up in the left hand. Then you repeat that. Let's go to the second line. You're here. These are together. And then here. The 8th notes are by themselves. So you go through, put the hands together, and then go back through it a few hundred times and get rid of the hesitations. So it is a steady beat. Doesn't matter how fast you go, but it's got to be a steady beat. You're going to always speed it up later. Then we can think about the articulation. That's the slurs and the staccatos. We're going to connect the... You can't connect repeated notes, but do the best you can. Now you can lift up, but I don't recommend coming from here to here. Start that motion and then lift up, and you're already there. In other words, come on over, but lift up. And then at the end of the line, you're going to lift up. If you repeat, you have to. It's the same note. But going on, you're still going to lift up. But I'm not lifting up and moving. I'm stretching out here, and then I'm collapsing. It's like taking a breath between phrases. You know. Left hand has the primary chord. We've been through that. And connect these as best you can, lift up for the rest, and then at the end of each line you get the staccatos. I'm flexing at the wrist, they're short staccatos. If you have time, put your hand on the keys and you bounce off. You push down and bounce off each time. Put your hand back on the keys. Don't boom, boom, boom unless you have to, because that's dangerous. And if you do have to boom, 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 make it a very small motion. Don't come way up. So it's here. Depends on how fast you go. For the dynamics, it's loud. And that's the right hand, that's the melody. It's up to you on what you think loud is. Keep these chords soft. Like so. Then the speed, again, we're back to the march. Left, right, left, right. Again, I start out about a 120 on a beat and see if that'll do it. About 1, 2, 3, somewhere in that area. It's not absolute, but if you can't play it that fast, that's okay. You play it at your speed, but it has to be accurate, and that's what we're after. Now, on the last measure of each line, there's different ways of interpreting it. It is written that you will do staccatos in the left hand, and you have a dotted half note in the right hand, which lasts 3 full counts. It comes up on beat 4. 1, 2, 3, 4 comes up on 4. If you do that, there's a little bit of time at the end when this note is by itself. 1, 2, 3, 4, because they come up, they don't end it. That technically, that's what's written. If that's what you want to play it, that's fine. Play it that way. Some people, in interpreting it, they'll go ahead and lift both hands at the same time. There's a way to notate that if that's what they really wanted, so that, and they didn't. So you kind of have a choice. Do you want to do that? If I were your teacher, I would tell you hold that down a full 3 counts. Let's be accurate according to that. We'll get more into interpretation later. I'd like to play this with you slowly, and let's just check all the notes and rhythms. I give us 3 counts because we come in on beat 4. Let's try it. 1 and ready and go and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Repeat. 1 and 2 and 3 and. To the beginning. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Off.